life, there's three things in life. One, there's woman. Romance, there's two. There's money, there's jobs, and there's three. There's love. And I want you all to come with me now and just have a good time.
A Southwest National Football League trophy, the summit of country football. Many aspire to holding the Holy Grail, but only one team each year tastes success. And on 6 separate occasions, the Harvey Brunswick Leschenault Football Club have climbed the mountain to claim the crown as Southwest champions.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Brunswick Oval, the homes of the Harvey Brunswick football side. This evening we're going to walk you through the history of this club from its inception in 1956, when under the leadership of Blue Dorries and coach Mr. Colin Green, this club entered the Southwest National Football League. What a wonderful 36 years it has been since, culminating, of course, in those 36 years in 6 premierships, 8 runner-ups to the premierships, and only being out of the top 4 on 4 occasions. This club has a wonderful background of history, and indeed it has a wonderful supporter base which is synonymous with the Harvey Brunswick Football Club in the wonderful ethnic support of the Italian community of Harvey Brunswick. We'll be speaking this evening to the coaches of the premiership sides, we'll be speaking to some players, we'll be speaking to people who work behind the scenes, and indeed we'll be speaking to people that make this club simply the best.
Welcome members and guests to the Harvey Brunswick Leschenault Football Club presentation night 1992. On behalf of my committee, my directors and myself, I'd like to welcome you all here tonight, and what a memorable year it's been. A great year for the club to top off 3 grand final wins in 3 years. It all started back in 1956, may I say, when the club was first formed and entered the Southwest National Football League. To my left over there we see in 1958 where the hall from Benja was transported here to Brunswick. From 1958 we now go to 1974 where the club rooms were built and a licence obtained. A great year for the club as well. In 1974 was the first time that we'd won a premiership in 14 years. So you see here today that we've got a building which is worth in excess of $300,000 with an annual turnover of $300,000, which exceeds that. So ladies and gentlemen, I'd like you now to go with Peter Elson, and he's going to relive the memories from 1956 right to where we are today, 1992.
So now, let's go inside into the magnificent rooms of the Harvey Brunswick Football Club, and let's speak to those people that have made it happen. The founding president of the Harvey Brunswick Leschenault Football Club was Blue Dorries. And of course, who better to speak to about Blue Dorries than his daughter, Jennifer Jeffries. Welcome, Jennifer.
Good evening, Peter. How are you?
Jennifer, you must have memories of Dad in his early footballing career?
Very much, yes.
And
yes.
where did it all begin with your father?
Over in Gatanning.
Any special memories of Dad, Jennifer, when he became president of the Harvey Brunswick Football Club?
It was when Graham and Peter, my oldest son, started to play football, that he used to sit over in the gate for junior football, and he sat there for years in the rain and everything just to collect money. And because the children were playing football, his favourite saying was that if when Graham sat down that the world was in darkness.
And was there any rhyme or reason behind that statement?
I think that stands to say what was said was just how he felt about football and about his grandsons playing football.
Under the presidency of H. Dorries, the entry of the Maroons into the Southwest National Football League competition was not very encouraging when they failed to win a game in their first year. They had to wait until 1957 to taste success by defeating Collie Centrals by 1 point. Here, Stuart Pinner, a premiership player, reflects on that game.
Another highlight was the first game that we ever won, which was against a team from Collie called Centrals. It was a pretty wet and sorry day out at Brunswick, and the final quarter had gone for 37 minutes. We were a point in front, and our loyal timekeeper that day went over and just turned the siren, switched the siren on, and we'd won our game by a point.
In 1958, the presidency was taken up by Mr Tom Warburton, who carried this title for the next 3 years, being the first president to hold aloft the South West National Football League trophy. We're very fortunate tonight to have with us his wife Elsie, who of course behind every successful man is a successful woman. We ask Elsie about the good old days. Tell me, what did the women have to do those days? Was it a matter of making the cakes and boiling the billy, so to speak?
Well, it was. Over in our building, the old Benja Hall, 58, was bought for £200 and put on the ground over there.
Oh, so there's a transference of the Benja Hall into Brunswick.
That's right.
And that was the original change room?
Yeah, yeah. And they had that till the new club rooms was built.
Where did most of the players come from in the 1960s? Were they local Harvey Brunswick players?
There was a mixture. It was a mixture of a team.
And of course, Tom would have had a fair bit to do with it. You went out and you virtually recruited a coach in Brian Buswell.
That's right. Yeah, they did that. Yeah.
Could you have recollections of the grand final evening? What happened after the grand final?
Yeah, there was a good crowd, big crowd assembled over there, Peter. And a good night was had by all, I think.
Now,
yeah.
Tom's left a wonderful legacy to the Harvey Brunswick Football Club. Two of your sons, Kevin and Ross, played in the 1974 grand final.
Yeah, that's right. They played all along football for Harvey Brunswick and been on the committee. Ross has been president.
And Ross, of course, has been on the executive of the South West National Football League.
Yes, that's right.
Now, you did say to me last night when I rang you, and I'll have to let all our listeners know, our viewers know this, that you said you were too busy because you were having too many kids.
Not really, but they were young then, and you threw everything in the station wagon to go to the football. Everything, the kitchen sink went in, and you went away to the football.
The 1960 Premiership side, dubbed the Cinderella team, who only narrowly qualified to play in the final round, defeated Busselton 15 goals 8 to 11 goals 11. 4,025 people attended Brunswick Oval to witness the Maroons claim the club's first South West National Football League pennant, spearheaded by a masterly display of goal kicking by champion full forward and former South Fremantle forward Jim Rowbury. The Maroons swept aside the Busselton defence to emerge victory in a very rugged, pacey thriller. Captain-coach of this fairy tale team was the brilliant Brian Buswell. Brian, many happy memories of the 1960s.
Yes, there sure are, but my memory's never been real bright. But yes, most of the memories are good ones, yes.
And of course that premiership was played at Brunswick. What was the reason behind that?
Well, that was the year that there were no games in Bunbury because of the difference of opinion between the league and the council of that time in Bunbury. I think from memory the Bunbury City Council, the Bunbury Council as it was in those days, wanted 15% of the take, and the South West League wouldn't agree to it.
Obviously, Brian, it's an era of change, and football has changed greatly in the last 32 years. It's a long time, 32 years, to stretch your memory back. But no centre square, only one umpire in those days. No more drop kicks. Certainly big changes.
A lot of changes, and I'm not sure that all of the changes are for the best. In fact, I'm sure they're not. I often think these days, or wonder these days, why the torpedo punt kick isn't used more often.
Brian, every successful side has a key forward. Did you have one in the 1960s?
We certainly did. I consider that we had probably, it's a pretty big statement. I was going to say...
Be careful.
Yes, I will be careful, but having started, I guess I've got to keep going. I consider we had possibly the best full forward that's been around for many years, Peter. Jimmy Rowbury was one of those full forwards who did use the torpedo punt kick. In the grand final he kicked 8, but his conversion rate for the length of time that he played with us was, without knowing exactly what it was outstanding. And again, harking back to the torpedo punt kick, there's a good example of it as far as I'm concerned.
Former South Fremantle footballer.
Former South Fremantle, and if you want to nominate another guy who used a torpedo punt kick, a little bit different to our league, was Bernie Naylor. And surely there's lessons to be learnt there somewhere.
Moving from captain to vice-captain and fairest and best, winner of the 1960 Premiership side, we welcome player Stuart Pinner.
In 1956, that your original coach, the inaugural coach of the Harvey Brunswick Football Club, then known as the Maroons, was coached by a well-respected man in your district, in Colin Green.
Yes, Colin's very highly respected in our district and in the Harvey Brunswick Football Club. Colin has been a great supporter of Harvey Brunswick. Just at the moment he is, well, he's come from coach to the patron of the club, and Colin in all sports over the many years has been a great supporter of them.
Your brother Neville also was involved in the club, and yourself, 137 league games, 2 years as captain, and Neville played over 100 games, and that's really good service from two brothers.
Oh yes, Neville was quite a good wingman. He played in our Premiership side, and no, he was a good footballer in his day.
And we go on then, of course, over those years, and Colin Green being your first coach, but 1960 saw the arrival of Brian Buswell from South Bunbury. That must have been an exciting season for the Maroons.
Yes, Brian was a very good coach. Brian came to the club after Jim Buckle had us for a couple of years, and Jim's recommendation when he left as coach was that if we could get 2 or 3 good players from the city, that the club would go a long way. And in having Brian a very dedicated, very strong discipline coach, well, Jim's, what could you say?
Recommendation?
Recommendation, yes. Jim's recommendation proved spot on when we got the players like John Hilton, Peter Cobby, and the Brockman boys, and they were part of our 1960 winning grand final.
The special memories, I have one particular memory, is when Stuart Pinner was kicked the last goal of the game to give us a lead of 3-2, and at that point of time I recall very clearly thinking, well, that's it, we can't be beaten.
There was an upset in one particular game, and we were in 5th place, and by that upset we moved into the final 4. And we played Mines at Donnybrook, and then went on to play Kerry Park at Collie in the preliminary final. But the funny part of that was at quarter time, I think the score was they'd kicked 2-17 and to about, I think we had 1 goal on the board, and of course the fullback in Bonesy, Peter Jones, he was coming through the centre as we were changing over, and he said to me, "What about giving me a hand?" Of course he'd had 17 kicks in the first quarter, so he was pretty well tired out.
He would have been. Did you give him a hand?
Yeah, I kicked on, yeah. I finished up having a good game.
The 1960 Premiership side. Rossi, a tough player with no fear. Jones, a great competitor, hated people kicking goals against him. Shine, a great reader of the play and gave 100% in every game. Martella, very fast and hard-hitting. Morgan, tough, one of the hardest-hitting centre halfbacks in the league. Also, great footy skills. Leggett, fast on his feet, a great reader of play and a magnificent clearing kick. Neville Pinner, a very fast wingman with a penetrating kick, also a good team man. Stuart Pinner, a skillful centreman, always setting up the play, a great thinker. He was also known as the ankle tapper. Smith, a brilliant player with a great delivery to his forwards. Pether, fast and elusive with a brilliant drop punt. Rigg, a touch of class, great skills and could win a game in a short space of time. Buswell came from Souths, a great coach and a great footballer in all ways. Brockman, a great team player. Robury, a champion full forward, won the Pike Medal in the grand final and used his torpedo punt to great advantage. Greaves, 5'16", a great competitor and no better palmer of the ball. Cobby, probably the best ruckman to play for the Lions, a master of all football skills. Hilton was an ex-Claremont player and runner-up to the Sandover Medal, always constructive. Mackenzie, fast and elusive, an accomplished football player. Shine and Italiano, 2 top footballers, unlucky not to be included in the team.
Terry House started playing Colts for South Bunbury when he was 16, but couldn't get a regular game. He came back in 1964 and was destined into a career as a good reserves player. Then fate and national service took a hand. Terry was called up. In the Army, Terry became a captain coach. Once out of the services, Terry renewed his acquaintances with the Tigers. His success from then on read like a who's who of awards of football in the South West National Football League. 1977, his work commitments took him to Port Hedland. On his return to South West, coached Bourne up in 1978 and 1979, then joined the media of the South West National Football League before returning to coaching Harvey Brunswick in 1991 and 1992. While Terry's great strengths as a coach are beyond argument, his ability as a coach should not be underestimated. In fact, there are many good judges in football in Western Australia who consider Terry to be the best country football coach they have ever seen. Terry, 1974 and 75, only one umpire, no centre square, no interchange.
Yes, things were a little bit different then, and looking back, it doesn't seem all that long ago, but it was certainly different. You didn't have the flexibility that there is today, with able to run players on and off the ground as needed, and once you're on the ground, you stayed there unless something went terribly wrong, and the reserves were the reserves, and most times they had to be content with just sitting there and really not taking any active part.
Great times and great players in those 74, 75 Premiership.
Well, it's a little bit unfair to single out any one, I suppose, because those sides, in my mind, were the best sides that I was ever involved with, but a couple that spring to mind automatically. John Angel is he's one of the legends of the Harvey Brunswick Football Club. Players such as John Brearley, Eddie Wallazak, Terry Harris, John Cormack, they were all very, very important players in those days, and players that are remembered in the competition.
And the feeling in the club in 74, 75, I think you've always made mention of that Italian background in this club.
Was outstanding. Whenever I'm asked to talk about those days, I always talk of the feeling amongst the players, and you hear talk of different teams, what they'll do for each other, but in those days the opposition dare not take on any one of our players because they generally had to take on the team, and a lot of things come to mind just speaking about that, but it was certainly a very close-knit team. Any
special thing that stands out in those 4 premierships? There must be an intricate aspect of those 4 premiership that sticks in your mind.
Yes, and I've mentioned it a dozen times or 1,000 times, and it was watching John Angel crawl past a player. He was on hands and knees in a goal square. The player was running. John Angel was on his hands and knees and beat him to the ball. I'll never forget that.
For many, beating South Bunbury is satisfying enough, but when it brings back the Premiership Cup for the second time, victory is very sweet. And for Maroons captain coach Terry House, beating South Bunbury in the 1974 grand final was cream on the cake. In what can be described as a great grand final, the Maroons outbumped, outthumped and outplayed South Bunbury to win by 21 points. The final scores being 15 goals 16 to 13 goals 7. The Pike Medal was won by the outstanding centre halfback John Angel, but there were no passengers in the Maroon lineup in 1974, and picking the best player was almost an impossible task. Premierships in 74, 75, runners-up in 1973 and 1976. A homegrown lad was the president of the club in that era. Of course, it was Joey Italiano, commonly known as Two Square. We invite his wife here this evening, Betty Italiano. Good evening, Betty, and welcome.
Good evening.
Betty, 1973 to 1976, your house was full of footballers.
Yes, we used to have every weekend people from Perth that used to come down and play. Terry Harris, John O'Neill, they'd come down, Eddie Wallazak, and they'd come down and stay at our house every weekend. We'd have a full house. And then they used to come back, and after they'd been to the football club and played and partied on at the club rooms, we used to come back to our place, and they'd go in the big shed and light a big fire, and they'd eat all our ding sausage, as they called it.
In 1974, licence was granted to this club, and of course, away you went. It's now what a facility valued around $300,000 to $350,000 with a bar turnover of around $300,000. What a great step that was in Wake Foresight of Joe's.
Yes, the opening of the club rooms was marvellous, and then we won the Premiership that year, and then we went through Bunbury as well when we won it, and it was absolutely unreal. 74,
75 Premiership, that really set the club ablaze, didn't it?
Well, it did, because it was a big thing to open the club rooms, and then we won the Premiership in 74, then we did it again in 75, which was a double up, and it was just unreal. And it brings people very close together. I think these days they're not as close to footballers as what they were. It's not like a family, where then it was more like a family.
We quote from the 1974 handbook, the feelings of Joe. Joe's comments: the opening of a new club rooms, John Angel playing his 200th game, club activities, a roaring success, and then a premiership. What more could a president want?
The 1974 Premiership side. The fullback line was led by the ever-reliable long-kicking Kevin Warburton, ably supported by rugged close-checking Joe Montiloni and dashing clearer Kevin Moore. High-flying centre halfback John Angel had power defender Paul Reed and straight-through no-frills Graham Bevan on supporting flanks. A youthful Graham Manning grabbed his chance when Brian Scott lacerated a hand at work on the eve of the grand final, and with champions Terry House and Mick Bagetta formed a class centre line. What Chris Headley didn't mark at centre-half forward was swooped up by Greg Magic Little and the explosive, in more ways than one, Frank Zaka. Elusive youngster John Cormick, later to be state full forward Mark Olsen, and great change ruckman Vince Morabito formed a potent full forward line. Former Swan Districts teammates John Brearley, Eddie Wallazek and Terry Harris were without peers in the following division and took all before them. Two of the club's brightest prospects in David Morris and Richie Green made up the strength on the bench.
The birth of the cattle truck eventuated on Monday after the 1974 grand final. Our president, the late Joe Italiano, decided to use his cattle truck to take all the players and supporters to Bunbury because not many people were capable of driving through the entire celebrations.
Well, the birth of the cattle truck was that year that we won the grand final. We had to put the cattle truck on, and we had Brian Buswell sit on the bonnet of the cattle truck, and we drove through town with Brian Buswell on the cattle, going through Victoria Street. We drove through, and he sat on the bonnet, and then all the footballers were in the back of the truck, and we drove through Bunbury, and then I had a green ute, and we had all the ladies going through that were on the committee, the ladies, and we drove behind them all the way, and that was the birth of the cattle truck.
Yes, well, that's tradition now at Harvey Brunswick Football Club, and I think at the start of each season, the first thing that's spoken about in the change room is the cattle truck ride, and it's certainly part of folklore around the place now, and there's been some great times.
In 1975, Harvey Brunswick won their first back-to-back premiership when they gave a practical lesson on how to play pressure football by defeating Donnybrook by 44 points. This game was not the prettiest to watch, but contained plenty of vigour, with both teams prepared to throw their weight around. Pike medal winner Lindsay Carroll was superb at fullback, winning his first medal, as Betty Italiano tells us.
And he was so proud to win a premiership because he had never won a premiership or a medal in his life, even from when he was a small boy until he came and played for us, and that was the first medal he had ever won.
Lindsay Carroll, the state footballer, Claremont player.
That's right.
Well, it could only happen to Brunswick.
That's right, and that's why he thinks he's got the softest spot for Brunswick.
The 1975 Premiership side. The stalwarts from the 74 side in John Angel, Chris Headley and Kevin Moore were set to make it 2 in a row on the full back line. Class youngster Bruno Italiano, Claremont recruit and eventual Pike medal winner Lindsay Slack Carroll, and again rock-solid Graham Alfie Bevan proved almost impassable across the half-back line. Brian Scott, not to miss this one, captain coach Terry House, and the best wingman in the Southwest League, Mick Bagetta, made up the class centre line. Frank Zaka, Man Mountain Mike Leroy, and Greg Magic Slippery, call him what you like, Little, gave the opposition backs a headache they wouldn't forget. John Cormick and Vince Morabito again had a champion spearhead in between them, this time in the person of the mercurial, sensational Basil Little. The old firm of John Brearley, Eddie Wallazek and Terry Harris again proved to be the best following division in the Southwest for many years. Versatile utility players Kevin Nettleton and Chris Lee made up the top 20 of 75. 1990 was the start of a brilliant era for Harvey Brunswick Leschenault when they broke a 15-year drought to win the fourth flag with a fighting 34-point victory over Collie. The final score being Harvey Brunswick Leschenault 14 goals 13 to the Collie Saints 9 goals 9. 3 or 4 years hard work on football development and the fostering of local talent was a big factor in this success. Mark, the transformation from Kerry Park to Harvey Brunswick, a big move.
Well, it was. There'd been some success in '86 with Kerry Park, and I was looking for that type of success here. The side had been doing fairly well in the years leading up to '89, and obviously I thought that they had a fairly good chance of being successful. Looking back on that 1990 side, we had some good ruckmen in Jonesy and Bernie Sloan.
But we had a very well-balanced side, and I feel myself that looking back there, it was the people that you'd consider as the local players that really made the difference. And it's difficult to take names off the top of your head without leaving people out, but I remember Dom Trimboli had a terrific year in the back pocket and played very well during the finals. We had guys like Austin Nieto and Paul Caratti that were extremely skillful and very, very quick over the ground. To select 3 players I think is probably a little unfair, because I think the players understand now that have been around to win a grand final. You really have not only the 20 contributors on the ground, but you also have perhaps 4 or 5 that have been desperately unlucky to miss out, and they too are all part of it.
Any special attributes that belong to the Harvey Brunswick Football Club that you haven't seen in other clubs?
Well, every club's different that you go to. The attributes here were both on and off the field. The committee were very, very supportive. They were very, very professional in the way they went about everything. The supporters were very loyal and were very excited about what was going on. I remember those types of things. And the players too were very focused on what they wanted to get out of that season in 1990.
You're simply the best.
The introduction of the famous song Glory, Glory, Harvey Brunswick was introduced in 1988 and was the brainchild of Alex Williams with the help of Austin Nieto. They drafted the first copy of the song at a pre-season camp held at Siesta Park in Busselton. The song on tape was put to music and sung by Jeff Hansen, a good friend of director Ken Offer. This song was sung on 42 consecutive occasions by the Lions reserve side and on many occasions by the league side, with the 1990 side being the first team to use the song on that last Sunday of September. Here we show that club song with the victorious 1990 Premiership side.
You put your name on it.
We had a philosophy out there that if we had unity, we'd have strength. And of course, in strength, you've got unity, and we had the combination of the two, and the club was certainly on its way to some great days.
John, unity and strength and unity, I don't think it works any other way, and whatever involvement that we're in today, you must have that communication and unite as one, and if you do, you have the success.
Well, if you've got it at the top, it just flows through the club. And that was showed out, of course, because our membership went with it. We went from something like 220 members to 430 odd within the following 2 years, and We had strength all around the club, but not only in the boardroom, but particularly from our ladies committee, all our work people, such as our trainers and assistants and members and supporters. Everyone came in and really put the club on the right track.
The 1990 Premiership side, led superbly by Trimboli, this last line of defence proved beyond the capabilities of the Collie full forward line. Inspired by a flamboyant host, this trio set up many attacking moves from this line. The sheer class of Aieto, the courage and overhead prowess of Hutchinson, and the youthful exuberance of Karate proved to be a top act. An attacking line that covered plenty of ground and fed the ball deeper into attack on a regular basis. The physical strength and cunning of Waterman provided numerous scoring opportunities for those around him. A class act, the ability of all three to continue to run and work hard when others were feeling the pinch was a telling factor. Papalia started the last 6 or so games in this position and deserved a winner's medal for perseverance alone, a good example for others. Norton did his bit when introduced to the action. Sam Strano, first and only time as a runner, and he shared the spoils of victory.
With the reappointment of Terry House as coach and retaining most of the 1990 Premiership side, Harvey Brunswick Leschenault had to start favourites for the flag and didn't let their supporters down, winning the grand final. Harvey Brunswick Leschenault 15 goals 15, defeating Mines Rovers 9 goals 13. You left the coaching position and became the captain of the side. Heavy transformation.
Well, it was an enjoyable transformation. I had been captain previously, obviously, when I was coaching, so I didn't feel that that particular role was going to be an onerous one for me. But I enjoyed that. It was a decision I made because I felt that I was getting to the end of a playing career. I felt I could still contribute on the football field. And I also wanted to take the opportunity of perhaps getting a little bit close to the players, because as a coach you have to have that barrier between the coach and the players. I feel you do anyway. And by just becoming a captain and a player, I felt I was able to socialise a lot more freely with the players and enjoy that aspect of football, which had been missing over the previous 2 years when I had to take on a coaching role.
Yeah, Mark's been a great asset to the club, and I suppose when you look at it, he was exactly the fellow we were looking for. I think everybody was fairly disappointed in that year that we'd lost it, and we sort of, everyone put their heads together and said, right, we are going to win it, and some very, very good recruiting, and Paddy Rossi did an excellent job in that area there, where he went out and got fellows like Bernie Sloan, who was there the year before, but Glenn Hutchinson and Graham Jones, and they turned out to be very, very good assets to the club and are still with us today and have been part of our history, making three in a row.
Season 1991 is one Graham Jeffries will not forget, winning every major award possible, and if that wasn't enough, he also had the chance to hold the Premiership Cup above his head with the Pike Medal dangling around his neck. 1991 was the second time he had won the Hayward Medal, with only one other player achieving such heights in the Harvey Brunswick Football Club, this being the never-say-die ruckman in David Topper Morris. It's been a wonderful career, really, and I must make mention that your grandfather, Blue Dorries, was president of this club back in 1956.
That's right, yes. He's a tremendous old gentleman, and he taught me a lot in my junior days.
And, of course, we have interviewed your mother, Jennifer, here today, who's very heavily involved in the club. But Graham, let's retrace the history. Where did you play your juniors?
Oh, I've always lived in Brunswick, born and bred in Brunswick, and always played my juniors with Harvey.
Possibly the Hayward medals, a highlight of... I know that 2 years ago, was it, you were rung up in the early hours of the morning to be told you won a Hayward medal?
Yeah, that's right. Hayward medals, now reflecting back, they're good to win like any individual award, but nothing ever will come up against the grand finals.
I was just going to get to the grand finals. You played under two separate coaches, but the styles of the teams are much the same, weren't they? It was fondly regarded the midfielders of in the 1990s, Skean, Jeffries and Crognali. You were the machinery room.
Yes, I suppose in those years just gone, the opposition seemed to worry about 2 or 3 of us, but then forgot that there was perhaps 10 or 12 players that could take the game by the throat, and that's where our strength lied, I think.
Graham, any observations about the change in the game, the pace of the game since, say, 1977?
Oh, I think now players have more stamina. I don't think they've got any quicker. I think the game's got quicker, but that's only because of the disposal of the ball and the run-on style of play that has developed. But the players are still basically the same, I think, and I don't think you can compare players from different eras.
So Graham thinks the players from different eras are basically the same, yet Stuart Pinner has different ideas.
You know, did they give you a drink of squash at quarter time or anything like that, or was it straight into it?
No, straight into it, no squash or anything like that.
Well, they were the days when you had the men playing footy, eh, Stuart?
Yeah, those was the days of the men, yeah.
You know, today if they didn't get their ankle bandages at quarter time, they'd squeal, I suppose.
Yeah, well, they reckon that's the biggest expense in football these days is bandages on feet and ankles and Christ knows what.
Yeah, well, of course, our own good friend John K. Watts likes to talk about the years that he played league football, and he reckons that's the day when men were men and you played footy with the real studs on your boot and not these light boots that they wear these days.
Yeah, those days you didn't mind if you had a little nail sticking out of one of your sprigs, you know, to help the cause at some time.
The 1991 Premiership side. The skill and confidence of young Aieto supplemented the experienced work of seasoned campaigners Vice-Captain Mooney and the tough McKinnon. The power and bulk of Sullivan gave others around him confidence. Barnsby saw some early action before being replaced when Papalia made his contribution. Superbly led by Pike medalist Jeffrey, the classy Aieto and superfit Macri gave their opponents little to smile about. Quietly efficient without being outstanding, the half-forward line got plenty of chances from a dominant midfield. Likewise, this line was well fed from further up the field, and the scores indicate they all did their bit. Aerial supremacy, skills at ground level, and plenty of run were attributes of this trio. The versatile Faulkner was used to good effect when given the chance, and Wellington also played his part. Graham Bevan added another Premiership scalp to his belt, having been successful as a player in 1974 and 1975.
1992 was destined to be a record-breaking event for either Harvey Brunswick or Boynup Capel Dardanup. Gratefully, Harvey Brunswick Leschenault grabbed the limelight with a great second half of running football. Final scores, Harvey Brunswick Leschenault 17 goals 7, defeated Boynup Capel Dardanup 12 goals 16. I think your 1992 victory was one that I'd remember for a while, because I think into the second round you were sitting 8th on the Premiership ladder, somewhere around there, and you managed to revive yourself and bounce back and win the pennant.
Well, I've been very fortunate in my football career, Pete. I've been involved with success at South Bunbury and Harvey Brunswick and a few grand finals thrown in, but this year was probably the most satisfying from my point of view, simply because of what you just said. Yes, we were in 8th position. A couple of games into the second round and generally written off by most of the critics, but there was never any doubt in my mind as to the ability of the players nor their grit, and we played for quite a few weeks with more than half of our league side out with injury, and it was a matter of getting those players back fit, and then the club then deciding that it was going to go for its third successive grand final. That decision was made not only at the board level, but the players themselves voted to do that. That was players in both league and reserve sides voted to go for the third grand final. They had trust and faith in the players that were in the club already. We added one to it in Matt Cullen, and the rest is history.
The record-breaking 1992 Premiership side. These guys had their moments of worry, but stuck to their tasks admirably and won out in the end. Offa held the mercurial Stephen Hill to 5 goals, and Strano and Bartley were valuable sidekicks. An efficient line well led by Vice-Captain Mooney, who used experience and courage to good effect. Newcomers Selleck and Firmino rose to the occasion and both did well. The experience of numerous finals and the never-say-die attitude of Jeffrey and Captain Macri complemented the exuberance of Aieto, a tough line for the opposition to contain. These guys were 3 very determined competitors who relished the challenge when things were tough. Strong overhead marking and unflinching courage, a feature of their play. They finished off the work of their teammates further up the ground to telling effect, and this trio didn't let their team down. Led superbly by Sloane, the following division gained many possessions to continually supply their teammates with opportunities, and they were a big factor in the team's win. These guys were both used sparingly, but they can lay claim to being part of a winning combination. Trevor Offa savoured the taste of a grand final victory in his final appearance as a runner for the club in his 10th season.
It takes more than just a few players to win a title, but in the club's record-breaking 3 in a row, there have been 9 important players who have made this feat possible. Amazingly, these players have been part of all 3 premierships. Thus, this is the reason why they have been dubbed the Magnificent 9. Take a bow, fellows.
You're simply the best. Better than all the rest. Better than anyone.
Is there a final message to the supporters of the Harvey Brunswick Football Club?
Oh, I don't know so much as a message. I mean, in the grand final night and wind-up night, I just said a little bit that I said I'd just like to see the people around this place make the club even greater than what it is. I think it's a good club, it's a great club, and they can go on to make it even greater.
You're simply the best.
Now, for your guests and for the viewers of this video, we have a very special treat. We have the three of them sitting in form. And first of all, I'd like to direct my attention to Brian Buswell and just ask you, Brian, any special observation of football over the last 32 years?
Yes, there's many of them, Peter. I think the one that puzzles me as much as anything is, perhaps it doesn't puzzle me, but the thing that crops up constantly as far as I'm concerned is that players seem to have less chance to develop their talents as a set position player.
The players today have to have that versatility because of the way the game's played. Coaches are possibly a lot more defensive than they were in the 60s and perhaps even the 70s. And therefore, if a player's doing well on a particular day, it's likely to be nullified with a number of different tactics. So that player may then have to play in a different position.
In any quarter of football, you might have half a dozen or more moves with players being expected to pick up and just carry on regardless of where they're put during that quarter of play. So versatility, as Mark has said, is definitely the factor these days. And being able to change players off the bench is another thing, Mark, that you and I are more acquainted with than Brian, simply because you could have something of a key player sitting on the bench to do a specific job, and you can have him do the job and then remove him again, and so the game is much different than it used to be.
How much emphasis do you place on a tap ruckman, a knock ruckman these days, as opposed to a ruckman who can take 10 or 12 grabs in midfield?
Well, I think we all like to think that we've got a ruckman that can tap effectively, but good players, and Mark's one of those, if you have a look at some of the replays, and you'll probably see that on this tape, that can read a ruckman's tap, and I think the idea is to bring the ball to ground and be strong enough to take it from there, rather than look for the perfect tap away, and it does happen, but not quite so often these days.
Going down the table, and of course, first to you, Brian, a final message to the members of the Harvey Brunswick Football Club.
All of my memories of the Harvey Brunswick football have been great ones. My wife and myself think that it's great that here we are 32 years down the track, and we're still thought of, hopefully, with fond memories by the Harvey Brunswick members. Thank you for having me.
You're simply the best.
All the things that Brian's mentioned, fond memories of the supporters and committee people associated with the club, and certainly the players, some of whom have remained very good friends with myself. And I guess for me, the fact that I'm now coaching a different club, but have looked forward to this night, and I presume the tape is being shown, to coming back into the club with absolutely no animosity and only just looking forward to spending a night with the people that have made Harvey Brunswick now a very, very strong club.
You're simply the best.
A little bit different than Mark and Brian, in as much as I'm still involved here, and quite obviously the luckiest person of the two others, simply because I've had longer at coaching and with this club, and I was very fortunate to come in at the right time with very good sides, and I've done a little bit better, I suppose, in that regard, but very, very lucky to be involved with this club. It's been fantastic. I just hope that it can continue.
You're simply the best.
Well, members of the Harvey Brunswick Football Club, we have traced the history of this club over the last 36 years. We have spoken to presidents, we've spoken to coaches, we've spoken to players. And of course, we have just seen what a wonderful era this has been. I think that the best way to sum it up is, as the lady says in the music, it has been an era that is simply the best. And now to close this video, and what a successful night it has been here tonight, I'd like to introduce to you once again the president of the Harvey Brunswick Leschenault Football Club, Angelo Catalano.
Once again, I'd like to thank you all for being here, and the many people that have done the work over the past 36 years that the club's been involved. I think that the reflection that's happened over the last 3 years has been brought about by a lot of hard work that's happened over the years, as I said earlier, but the fact that the club is as strong as it is, and it's only as strong as its members, you people that are out there and that look forward to being here on a Sunday and look forward to football. And I think that the club, in many ways, has taken a new direction. The fact is that we have to look at other scenarios. As we had our meeting here 3 or 4 months ago, or it wouldn't have been that long ago, it would have been 2 months ago, where we've said that we have to concentrate more on our Harvey area, and also with the prospect of Leschenault up the road. We have included that into our name, and that is a very important part of this club, and it will be a very important part of this club. I think the years that we've had, the last 3 years, as I said earlier, have been very successful, and there is no reason why we can't be successful in the future. As Peter said, this club is simply the best, and it is simply the best. It is the most successful club in the southwest, one of the most successful clubs. There is no other side that has won 3 grand finals in a row, and that takes a lot of work. It doesn't happen overnight, and it doesn't happen over 3 years. It happens over a period of time, and the people that have worked hard for the club over that time have made it happen. And there is no reason why it can't keep happening. And with the amount of players that we have, our local talent that we've got, the fellows that have been brought up through our Colts and our reserves players, the talent is untouchable here, I believe, with the sides. The juniors have done a magnificent job. Trevor Offer and Ross Warburton have done a magnificent job with the juniors, and that must continue. It is a way of the club that we have to go in that direction, and I feel that the future is very, very promising for this football club. It has a bright future, and one that we can expect to go for many, many years. So I don't want to talk any more, but I'd like to just thank everybody for being here tonight, and just remember that this club is simply the best, and be here, support it, do everything you can, because it is a great club.